greetings and welcome. Just trying to get as coordinated as possible. We're hoping to give you a brief musical selection of some of the greats of the reggae past, just to, introduce the forum properly. We're not just going to jump in and talk about reggae if we don't get to listen to some of the classics from the 70s. And by the way, my name is Michael Barnett. I'm from the Department of Sociology, Psychology, Social Work right here at University West Indies Mona campus. And I am a self-proclaimed reggae connoisseur. So that's one of the reasons why, we have put on this thing and I'm going to ask for no money, no thing, because it's the love of the music I deal with. Yeah, it's 3 times. Yeah, that's right. One good thing about music, when it hits you, feel no pain. Couldn't say it better myself. Right about now, we're ready to start this International Reggae Day Forum. I give thanks for everybody who's made it out here and made the effort to come. We give thanks. So this is International Reggae Day, started by Andrea Davis. And it really is befitting for us on this occasion to have Andrea Davis speak briefly about conceptualization of International Reggae Day. Why July 1st? And when did it start? So, just let's get the thing started the right way. So, Angela, if you could come and, yes, indulge us.
Okay.
Give us a little background on International Reggae Day. Let's give a big round of applause. That's right.
Well, happy International Reggae Day to everyone. Here you're back.
And to you.
All right. With note to the brief that I got from Professor, thank you very much, everyone, for taking the time to be here this evening. I'd like to thank you, and particularly Professor Michael, for all the work that he continuously does on behalf of Creative and for his insistence in holding something here in Kingston this year so that Jamaica doesn't fall too far behind what's happening in the other parts of the world. International Reggae Day is a concept that was first inspired, I think, I'd say by 2 African queens, one being my mother, who instilled in me a passion for my country, my culture, and my people. And from that, as well as a passion for music. So my first record purchase, I was 5 years old, and I bought Michael Jackson's first single, and I was a record collector ever since. All my, my savings, my allowance, I would buy records every week. So I've been a music person since I can remember myself. And luckily for me, I come from a country that has been blessed to create such a tremendous amount of great music that we have taken the world by storm, that we command a place that far exceeds our physical size, that we are a global giant in culture, that we transcend borders and we build bridges to cultures that are far and wide away from our own, that this is the first true world beat, reggae music. The second queen that inspired this was Mama Winnie Mandela. On her visit to Jamaica, following the release of her husband Nelson, I was fortunate enough to be in a room in the Oceana where she spoke to a group of women and told us of the challenges and the fight they went through in the struggle to end apartheid, and how important a role reggae music played in their struggle to inspire them, to get up and stand up for their rights, to inspire them to hold on to the truth and the right, and that despite our small size and our far distance, we were very much an integral part of the struggle in South Africa. And to reggae's credit, and to Jamaica's credit, we were among the first in the world to call for the freedom of Nelson Mandela. We were the first in the music to consistently bring pressure to the apartheid government of South Africa. And so for that, I want to give ourselves a round of applause, give Peter Tosh a round of applause, give Bob Marley a round of applause, give all of the artists who in their time, Third World, who in their time stood up for the right. And in fact, that is part of the reason why reggae music continues to command so much respect in the world today. It's not just that it moves your feet, but it moves your heart and it moves your mind. So Reggae Day, after hearing about its impact so far away, I was struck by the disconnect I felt was happening in Jamaica between reggae music and its people. And at the time, this was the early 90s, there seemed to be an overwhelming amount of media space devoted to music outside of Jamaica. Music that shouldn't even get airplay. And so the challenge came through Reggae Day to ask media to step up, to take just a day to dig a little deeper than the top 40, and to remind the roots and the branches of Jamaica's people how deep and how far this team works. So while it's called International Reggae Day, it is really about the sounds of Jamaica. And our ambition is to educate and liberate and entertain the next generation of creativity that needs to come from here, but give them the grounding that they need to remain competitive, to continue the level of excellence that the country has become known for. And I think that if we can give them those tools, those musical tools that were beneficial to the previous generation, to know the roots, to understand ska, to understand rocksteady, dub, all of these genres, each of them having their own place in the market space, but all of them commanding a space, that we will begin to see a lot more returns on this investment. And obviously the media has a huge role to play, not only in socializing the youth, but in making the stars that will drive the genre. All right, so we continue to call for this 24-hour celebration, which became international in 1996, when the internet was born. And with that power of technology and the power of media, and combine that with the power of music, we feel that this marketing initiative, this push, not only to sensitize Jamaica to the big picture of Jamaican music, but to remind the world that we are the culturally authentic home of this genre and the other genres from here, and to remind us and the world that Kingston is the home of Jamaican music and deserves its rightful place in the cultural capitals of the planet. So I thank you all for taking the time, short enough, to join us here this afternoon or this evening to discuss the state of reggae music since its 50 years of emergence. And I look forward to hearing your insights and continue to support the culture, support the music. And thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Andrea. Well, right now it gives me great pleasure to introduce Miss Gillian Wilkinson McDaniel from the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sports. And she is the Senior Director of Entertainment at the Ministry, and she is going to do an unveiling for us, I believe. So let's, without further ado, let's welcome Gillian Wilkinson McDaniel, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Andrea. It's a pleasure to be here, and on behalf of the Honourable Minister, Olivia Grange, I want to apologize that she's unable to be here tonight. She actually has cabinet, she's still in cabinet, and so she just asked me to extend her regrets. The logo that we're going to be unveiling tonight is a culmination of the work of a very, very special gentleman. Michael Freestyle, the late Michael Freestyle Thompson, who really originated the graphic representation of Kingston as a creative and a cultural space. In 2015, when Kingston was designated a UNESCO Creative City of Music, I had the pleasure of reaching out to him and asking him to actually do a logo for the city. It is something that we had thought that we would actually put it out to tender and that we'd have this very large competitive process. And in the talking through, the ministry came up with why not, and with talking through with Andrea as one of the main persons, why not have one of those persons who has really has had a brilliant design eye, an eye for social commentary, and was fully committed to realizing the vision of establishing a Reggae Hall of Fame in downtown Kingston on the waterfront, and using reggae music and art, visual, graphic design as a catalyst to anchor the city's urban renewal and to drive economic opportunity. That was Michael Freestyle Thompson. And so we started the conversation with him. And for those of you who don't know, the International Reggae Poster Competition was one of his brainchilds. Also, the Alpha logo that many of you know, that red background with the trumpet, is also from Michael. The trombone, thank you, Edward, is Michael Freestyle Thompson. The International Reggae Day logo is Michael Freestyle Thompson. And so it gives us really, really great pleasure to use one of his iconic works and to use that as a way to bring and to coalesce the graphic design eye that he had, and this notion of graphic design and art, and Kingston and the music, and the way that he captured that in those designs, for us to actually use that as a logo for the Kingston Creative City of Music. It is also an important part for us when we presented the Reggae nomination. International Reggae Day as an event, a 25-year-long event, was also a very important part of that nomination dossier, as was Sounds and Pressure, and the work that Sounds and Pressure has been doing in downtown Kingston, long before Kingston Creative, long before, and they were doing work in Rosetown, doing murals, doing all of those things for a very, very long time that seemed to be unheralded and seemed to, that we didn't take notice. And so all of this logo is really a way for us to say, here it is, we thank you very much. It's a very small way of the Ministry of Culture, with the minister at the helm, Minister Olivia Grange at the helm, saying thank you. The Entertainment Advisory Board, of which Eva Cooper is a member, it's a way for us to say thank you. We recognize and we understand that even where Kingston, another thing that happened recently was Kingston was designated a sustainable city, was chosen by UNESCO as one of the sustainable cities for intangible cultural heritage, and it is how we actually pass on to future generations particular modes of dress, of music, musical production, and so on. And we did a pilot project in Trenchtown as well as in Port Royal. And so those are some of the ways that government has been trying to deepen this designation of Kingston as a music city, the inscription of reggae as an intangible cultural heritage of humanity, as well as this development of sustainable cities, how to revitalize our cities through culture, through the arts, through music, that many of you have been doing for decades. And it seemed as if it was unheralded, but we're saying thank you. So with the logo, So if anybody remembers that iconic Michael Freestyle Thompson, that Road Boy scan, and if you look very closely, you can see the rag in the back pocket. But you have to look very closely. But this design was, the original actually had just the male figure on it. And so we requested that the female be placed on it for balance, because women were important to the development of the music. And so we present the UNESCO Creative City of Music logo and hope that you will use it. But you have to get permission from us first. So here we go. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Gillian, for that. And so we see that, we are blessed, truly blessed here in Jamaica. We have so much to offer to the rest of the world, and I wish that, we as a people, we internalize our cultural greatness and not, be so unkind to each other. Anyway, without further ado, we're going to go into our panelists' presentations on reggae music, what it was in the past, what it is today, and what it could be in the future. And it gives me great pleasure to introduce our first panelist, who was a critical part of the group Third World when it started, and also had, a lot to do with Inner Circle. Not only is he a talented musician, but he's also a reggae connoisseur on par in my estimation. So I'm talking about none other than Ebo Cooper, who also teaches at Emergence College. And Ebo Cooper is a great historian, so without further ado, Ebo, I let you.
Thanks, Dr. B. Good evening, brothers and sisters. Listen to the presentation from here because I want to play some examples. And I'm going to ask you to just give me a little more time than normal. Because you see some of us who have something to download, when you have erudite people like these, we want to record it before we leave the planet, because you know what I mean, we want all the things that go wrong in the future. So, yes, the record is straight up, on the turntable. So, to go to the wrong ringing it, so man, they have 400K on it. Done, in the original board.
Well, I forget this part.
Let's roll on the 400.
Let me get the technician who knows the board, right? So let's do that.
Yes. So basically, I would like to first of all say something about Andrea, because she was being humble a while ago. Apart from International Reggae Day, Andrea was invited with a group of us years ago, maybe as much as 40, believe it or not. She was a young girl at the time, or yes,
A baby.
yeah, something like that. But she did for the government at the time an extensive, well-produced, well-researched paper planning the future of this music. A paper that has been referred to, and I think should continue to be referred to, because it is not outdated in the least. And that paper led to the formation of what we now call the Entertainment Advisory Board. Yeah, she has done some valuable work advising. I must say that much of the advice was not taken at the time, but you know how it is a process. So we taught us to be patient as a way through gray or white or silver. That's how we became patient. But I must say we're not some of it, and we are here still trying to achieve more of it. So I also want to commend the present minister, who, whether she has been in power or not, has undoubtedly been in the trenches for this music, and pun intended, in the trenches. Yes. So, first thing I want to do is the definition of reggae. You see, when we talk about 50 years of reggae, some people were confused at the Golden Awards because they saw music being honored that was before the 50. And so they're not going to get that. So then, Friday. What happened is, in the World War II, by the 1940s and 50s, check. The 40s and 50s, the predominantly pop. I wonder if your position of any. The predominantly clarity, yes. Strongly, the predominant Bible music was mental. And for those of you who are too young to know what that is, just touch this. Some of you who are old enough to recognize the voice of this one. No, please, it's not the first form of popular music in the world or in Jamaica, but we just started with that era. Alright, after that, we're in Jamaican rhythm and blues. Therefore, let's make fun. Now, therefore, let's make fun was actually a pianist. And this is the first and probably only song that he actually sang on, but it was a big hit. Everybody was snapping, right? And he got that as a nickname. Well, as we got towards independence, the music took its own form, and by the time we got independence, 6th of August 1962, we actually had our own first Jamaican-born popular music form called ska. Genius on the trombone, Mr. Drum Drummer, who called the Satellites, named it because during that period, they had released satellites in space, and one of the water name on it was ska play, so they called the band Satellites. The one who wants to find out the long version of the story. Alright, so we got ska. Some years later, the music took a little bit of a slow turn. And now, as the story goes, there's a drummer living at Treasure Beach who claimed he was the one. The stories changed, and that went for a trip, but he claimed he was the one who couldn't keep up, so he slowed down the beat, and so Jamaicans never creative, never tried to say that's spoil, them saying that's style, and the new style was called what? Anthony Ellis, father of Lawrence Rock. Never named the music rocksteady, but he was the first person to use the word rocksteady in song. Now, many people identify Bob Marley with Trenchtown. There's a little problem in that. The people in Trenchtown are very sensitive about this. There are people who came to Trenchtown, but there are people who were born and raised in Trenchtown. And it makes a difference because the people in Trenchtown already had a mecca of music that people from outside came to join. So Bob came from Center and joined the Trenchtown people. Right? But after that, this is an original Trenchtown. And sometimes some people don't credit Trenchtown bigger than Bob. If Bob is an integral part and a very important part. But Bob came to a music maker. There were people there like Nora Silvis, people there like BBC, etc., etc. Alright. So people teach in school, carry the paper and then visit the room with a little pen and voice down and wave. These are things that the Americans carry people to a place called the Smithsonian or whatever. Trenchtown is one of our Smithsonian. Anyway, that's another matter. So I'm playing this to say that some of the characteristics now of this era, rocksteady era, were kept in the next era. The one drop where the drummer is leaving beat 1 and beat 3 most importantly, the bass line, playing what in classical music is called a ostinato, a repeating pattern, that became so melodious that it really is a start named the rhythm then, because the bass line became significant. And so, for once to play the answer rhythm today, was say tom, 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 tom. I mean, if you don't remember the first tune, that was a it. A man's play Shankai Shake, and we know Baba Brooks, but he was say tom, 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 tom. How many of you know some trumpet and Baba Brooks? No, but Shankai Shake was original Baba Brooks piece with that rhythm. So we started to name the rhythm because of the bass line. These basses became classic bass lines which were used over and over and over. Alright. The importance of it is that going into the next era, right? What is the difference between rocksteady and reggae? Subtle difference. Still have the bass line with the patterns, still have the one drum drumming, but the echo unit could snap back the band in time to the music. So we go check again, check it, check it, check it. So there was that. There was also people like Winston Wright playing a shuffle with the left hand, like a jazz shuffle. So you have a double beat inside of it. For those of you who can hear, here's a classic first original reggae. Here, here is a piece by Prince Lincoln Thompson and the Royal Rascals. And it was recently covered by John Legend. the music was a lot of love songs, even at the rival side, which means what we call slackness now. I mean, there was like Chalmers, you know, Bob Wayne, Big Man of Manson, and them children, you know. And I want to pass on a piece of information that I got recently. It was given to me by Mr. George Goulding, the brother of Johnny Goulding, who at the time had a magazine called Swing Magazine and a sound system called Swing Disc. He is claiming that when this new music came and they wanted a name for it, his brother suggested that the name be an abbreviation of Regal, Gate, hence Reggae. Now, again, that is a claim. Lots of people have different claims. Tootsie Hibbert was the first person to use the word reggae in a song, but he did not just like alter it. So apparently, John Goulding was the one who said, well, it's regal, and it's about happiness, which is gaiety. So regal gaiety. Jamaica is a country of a lot of coincidences. Some people consider it spiritual, some say it's synchronicity, some say it's coincidence. However, I just wanted to know that the ablative case of rebels in Latin is reggae, which means of the king. So it's just a coincidence that we end up with a word which means of the king. Alright, so you find that in those days, the Rastafari movement found voice through this new music. Now, please note that many of the promoters and producers at the time weren't Rasta or into Rasta. And many of the artists were aspiring to be in the British charts. American charts and Billboard was not open to us at the time. The British charts was one of the areas for further expression internationally. And so you had members of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church who took the Fidel, which is the liturgy and the language, and tried to use the music to educate the population about your culture. One group that was prolific in this regard was a group called the Abyssinians. And one of the songs has become what is accepted as a reggae anthem. And in the language of Ge'ez, the proper pronunciation is Sota Abasakadala Ablach Hula Ge'ez, which means give thanks and praise to the Most High God in the language of Ge'ez.
Last to the first.
So, in that era, Bob Marley never have the locks yet, and I want to make it known that he's not the first man in Jamaica to flash out the blacks on stage. I was here at Kerry, it was an independent stage show. The first man to have a time and flash out the blacks on stage is Manley Buchanan, otherwise known as Big Youth. So we say, somewhere we have something we have to download quick because people Bob Marley still have soul here at the time they were the last. Look at the album called Catch a Fire, you will see that album. It's actually true that because that is how we come to the thing, because we were the band that when you have to back up again because the people were off big songs. Accompanying band, thank you very much. We were the accompanying band at the time. Some get to know all of the man them on radio, we have to know the music by heart because we never have a music sheet. So I would also like to welcome the new chairman of Jerry, Mr. Johan Simpson. Please give him a round of applause. I was going to get to Jerry and what we're doing with Reggae Day in a minute, so let me continue because the sequel to what we're saying. So basically, we're looking at this point, the unprecedented happened. To be honest with you, as a musician, love my Jamaican music, love reggae. But we really never think it was going to make a big impact. We're from a small country, we don't have the media power. You know what I mean? So, worst of all, I'm going to say about Jah. A certain prominent artist at the time, very prominent, with a lot of rusted hits, looked at me and said, oh man, I could go off and sing about Jah. Jah means yes in German. Right, that's an actual conversation I had. So, we weren't cultured to be that confident about what was happening, even though we like it. Get what I'm saying? The big boys were playing funk and soul and rock and reggae. However, subsequent to the Vietnam War, there was a void. Now, music has always had a political side, and rock music had a very political side during the Vietnam War. A very important aspect of rock was to protest that war. Led to concerts like Woodstock and so on. You know, youths didn't want to be in the draft system in the United States and so on. But it lost the edge. And so the world was started waiting for a new image in the music. Lo and behold, the new image came out of Trenchtown. The three brethren, Bob Marley, Peter Tosh, Bonnie Livingston, and a band that was originally called the Hippie Boys. Family man and Carly Barrett had a band called the Hippie Boys. First man to take the bass and play lead in a song called Lapta Loco. Dibby, do-bo-do, bang, do-bo-do-bo-do-bo, dibby-dum-bum. Family man, that Hippie Boys. That band was put together with Wire out of Norgen and Riri, and they went together as people of them now called the Wailers. Please note, it was not Bob Marley and the Wailers yet that happened later. It was just the Wailers. Alright? Anyway, they went overseas and paved the way and opened gates for Jamaica and its music in an unprecedented way, and to date, unmatched. I don't think there's anything. I know Hussein do a lot recently, Bolt, but I don't know if Bolt would get the ray when get if it wasn't for the music that preceded him. Because even though we win up the thing and get a whole heap of medal, right? There's enough body creep and thing go on and ray. You understand? Most of the music was always there. But remember Bob now going in cold, and in a personal conversation, because everybody want to make it and Bob gone was about how out the road they stay, because personally you have dreams of going out there. So try to him one night, they want to Legally. Third World was the first band to actually accompany the Burning Spear live, believe it or not, on a live show. So we're waiting on Spear late. And so Bob, how out the road stay? He said, why you go? Some youth come on before me, and the youth think of fast. And I said to myself, how am I going to go on after that? And boss, something about that rhythm. So even Bob himself was fascinated. As he go down, tick, tick. But you know, a generation had changed. Time was that time. Nelson Mandela was incarcerated for his own rights in his own country by a minority government. And the politics was right. There were white kids in England and Europe who were saying racism is wrong. So one of the most important shows that we played in those days was some concerts called Rock Against Racism. Okay? So that politics was there of liberation. And at the front of it was their respect for the Rastafari movement and what they considered Rasta music, even though now is actually Rasta music that inspired reggae. The world saw this reggae now as Rasta music, so reggae became a movement of Jamaica. And interestingly enough, this is why I went this whole journey from the genre to this international acceptance. Because before that, when you went into Tower Records, there was not any shelf for you for Jamaican music. But by this time now, you start to get a reggae shelf. But on the reggae shelf, you know, Ska, Mentor, Rocksteady, and everything that went before. So the parent now became a child. The child now became the parent. And that is what happened. So the international acceptance of reggae now was the music that come out of Jamaica. So even what preceded it. In other words, Bob Marley was why Jolly Boys, a Mentor band, could do an international tour several years later. Mentor band couldn't tour over one time more than Gabon was complaining about it, straight up. Right? So this happened. You look at the birth of dub poetry. You look at the English bands being inspired. You know, the name Steel Pulse speaks for itself. The name Aswan are a word for black. But many people don't realize that UB40 is the name of the form that is signed when you're going for the dole. UB, unemployment benefit. So the whole identification with the people and the working class. Every repressive regime in the world, the people of the country protested using reggae music. From South America, and Pinochet and them, come straight through, right through Africa, Zimbabwe. I don't know how many of you old enough to remember Ian Smith, right? When Ian Smith took on the British flag, which means that he seceded from the command in the British Empire. And the Queen don't know about that yet. He actually sent 3 ships, but Anguilla, on the island, we don't know if it's a gun, right? But as I said later on, we can gain a long version without the politics involved. The point I'm making is that here comes this music, tearing down the Berlin Wall, talking about Mandela must be free. And being a music that the Hopi Indians said that these people, Bob and Peter, them were prophesied when the Dogon started, or a whole lot of things, the Maori people, them and these people, everything, said these people are holy people coming out of Trenchtown. Right? So, I have this thing coming down, and 50 years later, we have an organization that is 10 years old. It's called the Jamaica Reggae Industry Association. Not a coincidence, because we wanted to name it the Jamaica Music Industry Association. But that was already taken. So with a coincidence, I had a hand-up job, it named Jamaica Reggae Industry Association. And what I was going to say, I'm going to ask the board members to stand. Mr. Dan McDowell is the chairman of the Constitution Committee. Mr. Edward Ray is the musician's representative. And the chairman is Mr. Johan Simpson. And why I'm going to bring this into the conversation, because this year, the chairman's initiative, and we call Andrea, she should love it, we have pulled together now to kick off today what Jaria will consider its Jaria year. So our year now begins with International Reggae Day. So I am still on the board. I'm the chairman of education, and was when Mikey B called and said, "Boy, what a take." So I mean, so more innovation that came. We also saw, I'm working because you're coming in the room with me on the speech. We also saw the kickoff of major reggae festivals across the world, spearheaded by Reggae Sunsplash. Give him a round of applause because it has to be recognized. Why it is important is because before that, and even a little after that, when we're on the road, we have to be a part of other people's festivals. Now you have reggae festivals in all of these countries that are as big as the rock festivals and so on that we used to perform on. Alright. So you look at all of that development, and so when you get to the 50th year and the Golden Awards that was held at the arena, you find that it's appropriate to recognize Rocksteady. It is appropriate to recognize Mentor. It's appropriate to recognize a producer who was there before, because now the definition of reggae is not just about the 50 years since the genre started, but it is resulting from that 50 years, the recognition of everything. So it is appropriate. When we're looking at the 50 years, it's 50 years since a particular genre started, but we are now looking at what became spawned from that. Well, come the 80s, and we see sound system around the thing again, because all the musicians have gone on tour now. One time on tour was going to Ocho Rios, but now we're going to Miami, and now we're going to Switzerland. You understand? So, the new set of stars were emerging from the sound system. And out of the sound system, we now found dancehall, which was a space, and all of the music before that was dancehall music, now becoming one word and focusing on the innovation that also came from the reggae genre era, the innovation of dub music. Bass and drum and dub music became rhythms now that people could vibe on. So, we now saw where by the time we had Sunsplash, there was not that much of a difference between reggae and dancehall, because dancehall artists were using reggae rhythms. But as it emerged and got more creative, you found that reggae started to be considered by a new generation as the message side of the music, and dancehall became a party culture. in its own right. So that led to the reggae revival, because some people thought, well, reggae was getting out, got to push one side. But we cannot understand that at the height of the dancehall era, you have reggae artists like Luciano, Tony Rebel, Sizzler, Garnet Silk, Everton Blender, who are still there with that message coming through and being just as popular. So I want to say that when you look at the 50 years and what it has spawned, it has made major contribution to the image of Jamaica, major contribution to tourism, major but still yet not properly recognized contribution to the economy of the country, and definitely employment. I have been teaching at Edna only 20 years now, and I have a 98% employment record with the youth of pass through my system. However, I hope the media people in this room don't know off my head, but there will be a discussion later on. I still find that our radio, generally speaking, is still North American biased. And finally, I am encouraging our creatives to not be so limited in the topics that they create and write about. In dancehall, the girl wine till her spring pop, and she's still a wine. Even if she have a wine, put it a little bit different than one. You understand what I mean? I would like for us to be able to listen to an instrument play again. I'm encouraging you to return. And it does not play either or, everything can grow. But I think we need to have some music that feature rain and a trumpet and Dean Fraser. You see, we have a very fair guys. And I respect the Latin people for this, and the country of Western people. They realize that music employs people. And if we just go computer and machine alone, there's a whole heap of people never teach to play music that not going to have any work. You see me? So, if I'm teaching a violinist, you have to come listen to the violinist. And let me tell you something. There is still one thing that I am glad for in all of music. That there is still a connection between the communicator and the person receiving that money has not been able to erode. They spent 13 million some years ago on an album, and Mick Jagger went solo. And who wanted to be bigger than Mick Jagger? Well, people, the album died at the studio door because the public just never like it. And yet you will have a little you down the corner who come up with a little thing, and nobody knew him, and tomorrow it's the biggest thing. I am glad that doesn't exist. And you know why it exists? Because one thing I can assure any creator in this room, the sincerity of your creation will touch the heart of those you're reaching out to. Thank you.
Dr. Evo, man, that's what I said, reggae historian, unparalleled, unparalleled. All right, so now we're moving right along, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce our next speaker, none other than Denise Isis Miller, long time a veteran in the music industry. That belies her appearance. Yes, Denise Miller is a mentor to many. And she will speak to her experience in the business, generally. So we know her as a radio host on Roots FM, but she's more than that. She's more than an MC. So I'm not going to say too much. I'll let her fill in the blanks. So let's give it up for Denise Isis Miller.
Wow. Thank you, Michael. And is it now sharing the education? A wonderful journey in music. But before I do anything else, like I usually do on radio and on stage, I'd like to do an affirmation. Can you allow me to do so? Let's claim the victory through humility, discipline, and perseverance. What the mind can conceive and believe it can achieve. Through love, wisdom, commitment, focus, action, and overstanding. And I must achieve a spiritual renaissance, economic revitalization and mastery over substance. Now the Zali Father, the earthly mother, and I are one. Health, wealth, and prosperity are I and I natural birthright. Blessed be the union that brings us abundance and opulence in all things divine. Let the words of our mouth and the meditation of our heart be acceptable in thy sight, O divine Father and Mother. Jah Rastafari, Jah Rastafari, Jah Rastafari, Jah Rastafari, and Empress many, because we talk about yin and yang, we talk about man and woman, we talk about balance. And so I'm so happy to see my family, because I'm seeing most persons here who are indeed my family, but I have to first of all recognize the stalwarts, you know, those who have driven me and inspired me on this road, this journey. And it's a very emotional day for me as we celebrate International Reggae Day. My sister, Andrea Davis, I love you dearly, and I thank you. And while we're doing that, we have to always acknowledge your mother. Your mother, who was a mother not only for you, and Renee, and Crucial Substance, but I and I mother too, of course. And of course, most of you would know that she transitioned 1 year ago, and we say, rise in power. And the rest in peace thing, rise in power, because she's now an ancestor. So I see so many other persons. I see Melchizedek, Earl China Smith in the house, who is a true inspiration. Yes, round of applause. I see Dr. Henry Morgan, another stalwart. Thank you so much for your work in Trenchtown, what you're doing. I see Dr. Clinton Houghton in the house with a camera, his instrument that needs you to record continuously what's going on. And I know the call everybody still in, although you're all media stalwarts in your own way. But I have to call Mr. Warren King in the back there as a promoter. You know, and he's covering his face because he doesn't really like when I do this. But I must say that Warren King, promoter, right, stage manager that the people love to hate, right? Well, he's excellent. He is the one that brought me into this business of emceeing and stage management. And I'll just give you a quick story because I know the time is short. But some years ago, there was a show at that Barrington Levy had, massive show. And I was there as his assistant, stage manager, right? Huge crowd. And the time I'm gone, MC never show up yet, and people are getting restless. So he has a way about him that he doesn't ask you to do anything, he tells you. So what I say, and I say assistant, and I say Denise, because most people who know me for a long time call me Denise. And said, Denise, up on the stage and MC the show. I said, excuse me? Excuse you? That's not my job, that's not my forte. I am your assistant stage manager. They're gonna work on radio. Well, I said, I just started recently to work on radio. I don't really know how. And said, well, either you do it or the show will pop down. So that was put on my shoulders. Anyway, I took my humble little self and went up there and kind of did what I had to do with his major support, and that was really my first major MC duty. Thank you. I don't know what did, but the people that never really seemed to boo me. I never get back, I never get booed, but I think they were more happy that the show had started. So I'm saying this to say that I never stopped talking about war. Some people said, oh, I never talk about the same story and the same thing. But you cannot forget where you're coming from. Never. And he was instrumental in carving out my career. But there's a gentleman called Martin Dusty Miller, who is my dad that transitioned 8 years ago. And I was born in London. I was born in London, actually. Right? Yeah, actually. Yeah. Really. And what happened there was something that would change my, well, I think it was, I wouldn't say change, I would say it was meant to be. My father and my parents were into music, and I had a godmother who had a club. And my parents, I mean, I had nanny and all that, but you couldn't afford as young, you know, they were young parents, to pay a nanny all day, all night. So I had the nanny in the day, and then by night, when they wanted to go to the club, the same, or what it would have been, what era was that? Don't date me, don't date me. Somewhere up the lane, down the lane there, what some good music was being played in England, because you know how England stayed, right? And they used to take me in my pram and push me into the coach room. And I would have to stay there while they danced the night away. Was that abuse? Not the truth. Anyway, something happened though, because as a child, remember you're in your formative years, right? So the music seeped into me. Seep and seep. Alright? Anyways, 3 years later, we came back to Jamaica. My parents came back to Jamaica. And somehow or the other, as time went on, I would find myself, as a youngster, listening keenly, especially when I had to go to the country, you hear the boxes, them playing, and I'm like, wow, something, I went back. It was subliminal, I went back to that time. Anyway, I went to Mona Prep, and what happened there is that I learned 7 different instruments. Please don't ask if I can play one right now. I learned the guitar, Igbo. I learned the triangle something, melodica, recorder, and tambourine. And I loved it, because here we go again, the music was coming forward into me and giving me this good vibe, you know, this good energy. To cut a long story short, after that I went to high school, played the guitar there, even played at my Mona Prep graduation, people. Can I tell you, I played the guitar there and did a very good job. Then I went into high school, and then I left for high school and went back to England because, of course, born in England, I was able to go back and do some high school. And then I learned more about reggae music. And I was more intrigued about reggae music at that time. Also, I must also say to you, in growing up, before I went to England, my father, definitely a Rastafarian, but Afrocentric in terms of how our home was. Dr. Clinton Hunt would love it. We had only Afrocentric portraits and artifacts in our home. But guess what? He was playing music. He was playing jazz. He was playing Ken Booth. He was playing, that's why I love Ken Booth so much. He was playing all of these songs, and I was there, locked into this music. So anyway, I went back to England and of course had that musical experience again, came back to Jamaica, and some or the other, again, because of the music, I would say played a major role, getting into the whole faith of Rastafari. And of course, you know, I went into the 12th tribe of Israel, and you know, with that foundation there, with all the coronations that they would have, and you know, just the whole vibe of Rastafari and the Nyabingi as well. Jalove, Brigadier Cherry. You know what I'm saying? Albert Ilawe as a selector. I had that whole experience, and that was an awesome experience for me. Left and went back, well, went to New York to college, and always was into the music. You know, as Fred Locks would say, I was the first person to bring him on stage in New York to perform. So through the faith of Rastafari I grew, and through the music I also grew. Coming back to Jamaica now to help my parents manage their business, not music, Miller Surgical Supplies. Surgical Supplies, I don't want to do this. Music I want to do. Because that was my passion. But of course you have an obligation to your parents. Anyway, I was there for a while, and of course they recognized that, she not really know this. You know? So it blossomed out. But the good thing about it, I talk about divine intervention, because we were right there on Happy Park Road, Miller Surgical Supplies, and right across the road, Maho Drive, is the Mustard Seed Communities, right? And so I saw the newspaper where they were launching a radio station. And I said, what? Radio station? Inner city radio station? So my father and I used to go over there to buy cards and support the Mustard Seed Community. Most people are familiar with the Mustard Seed Communities that takes care of disadvantaged children, right? So they were starting a radio arm. And I went to Tony Young, who was there first, had no experience in radio, Damali Robertson and myself, we started our first radio program on a Saturday called Conscious Reggae Party. Okay? So we did the program for a while. Damali left and went overseas, and I carried through the program. And Winston Bella, most of you know Bella and Blackout, had a program there, and he said, no, man, you can't do good, man, you can't just do one little Saturday program, you have to come join me in the morning. I said, join you? I said, not really, because I was still working with my parents. He said, yeah, man, we're going to do the Rest on the Pass. So we did the Rest on the Pass morning program, and it was very controversial, but it was great, because me being the Rastafarian and him being a pastor, it was awesome. And anybody who knows Bella will know that he's just an extremely fabulous person. He encouraged me, and we just worked this thing, we did it. Till he left and went to a different time, and then I was left to carry that program on my own. And I did it until this time now. I'm on Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. We call it Rootsology. And just last year, it would have been 20 years since I have been on Roots FM. And Roots FM is 21 years old, so I came out with But what I recognized, after a while, I was getting very frustrated with the music business and the lack of support for young, conscious reggae artists. There was no live music for them. It just didn't exist. Now, all of this live music, 8-9 years ago, it wasn't really happening that much. Jamnesia was definitely happening, yeah, for sure. And I said, I have to do something, because I had artists coming to me, and I said, well, we're not in a place to go, we can't get in a show. And I started the Conscious Reggae Party, and the Conscious Reggae Party was actually launched on International Reggae Day. So I have to please clap Andrea for giving me that support. And it was at the Bob Marley Museum. And we had the Korean man, I can't remember, I Win was one of the artists. And the list goes on. I think Janine was there. But the point is that continued for a while, live music. And I remember about the second or third show that we did, because we used to do it once a month, at Country Farm House. We had this artist, this young artist, that some people were very excited about. And Mrs. daughter Zion, she was like, you have heard of the artist? And we said, yeah, man, because Iron is going to be there, and so many other artists are going to be there, and Katis Ayunde from the Rastarees is going to be there. And they were like, yeah, man. And the artists go up on the stage, and we never even have a band. Because most of the musicians artists we had, they all encouraged band. He didn't even have band, because they just asked me to put him on in the early stages. And believe you me, when the artists come on the stage, and I remember I told you, not even tell you, I told you, that him rock the place. You understand me? Rock the place with his confidence, with his lyrics, with his music. And that was 8 years ago, and that person was Chronix. Chronix used to come to literally almost all the Conscious Reggae Party show, whether he worked or not. And he would stand there and watch the artists. He came at one point, he even did an acoustic set. But he was honing, because Conscious Reggae Party was like an underground movement. Most of the artists like Janine, Protege, there's so many that came through Kabaka Pyramid, all of those, they call them the reggae revivalists, right? And that they all came through. Ibu Cooper was one of my revolutionary speakers so many different times, because we didn't just have music, we had revolutionary speakers who would come and do pretty much what we did today, to educate and edutain and inform persons. So I really thank these people as well who have come through in this particular way. Now, based on a lack of sponsorship, because everything came from out of pocket, I didn't charge to go into these events. We couldn't keep them, because Tony's bars where we used to be in New Kingston, and Tony helped us so much. He believed in it. And when he closed down that place is when we kind of had a little shaky vibes. And yesterday, when I listened to Palav, and I listened to the story of Reggae Sun Splash, and I said to myself, Andrea, kudos to you again for saluting Reggae Sun Splash. Clap again, please. This year. I thought I knew a lot, but I didn't know a lot. And I sat and listened to that whole story of Reggae Sunsplash. I heard, Ronnie Burke is here, right? I literally cried when I heard the story. And I said to myself, well, you're not going through nothing, Isis. What are you talking about? You're not going through a thing. And I'm asking everyone to stand, please, to give a salute. Please, can everyone stand and salute Ronnie Burke, his family, and all of his team for the excellent job. And so many of us, thank you so much, so many of us do this like myself, out of passion and love. We say over and over again, we weren't businessmen or women. Our wives carried us. Our families carried us. And it just goes to show that in this business, we have to always remember the matriarchs. Sister Elaine Wint-Leslie, thank you so much for all you've done for reggae music. As I said, it was very emotional when I heard the whole story and the hypocrisy which still exists, Jackie, with regards to reggae music and the lack of sponsorship. When I see that the powers that be are still utilizing this Rastaman Bob Marley image, with the locks flowing, red, green, and gold tank top, but Bob used to wear with a spliff hanging out the side of his mouth. And to think that these same people back then wouldn't support an entity like Synergy. Listen to the name, and you know what Synergy means, right? And wouldn't support Reggae Sunsplash. For a part of that era, I was living in the States, right? Because I lived in the States for 15 years, but the latter part I came in and I was mesmerized. Who could not be mesmerized as we also remember Dennis Emmanuel Brown on this day, this transition, Rising Power, Dennis Emmanuel Brown. And it's so funny because this afternoon, I interviewed Colleen Douglas from Edna Manley School of Visual and Performing Arts, who is the Communications and Marketing Director. And I got so excited talking about, I said, do you remember the days, Colleen? She says, Isis, you know, when I look at myself, Isis, I just 42. I don't really remember. I said, even at that shop, because it was a family event. But how many persons in here experienced Reggae Sunsplash? Please raise your hand. Every day after work. You know, it's hard to even describe what it wasn't a festival, it was a whole movement and experience. You know? And I was again teary-eyed when we heard that, last year we heard that Reggae Sunsplash will be revitalized and will be coming back next year, 2020. And I was like, yes! But that wise man back there, Mr. Ronnie said, well, he didn't give me the answer I really wanted to hear. Tell you the truth, but it's a reality. It cannot be duplicated, what happened in that era. It cannot be duplicated. Because that to me was jacent. It was a divine intervention. So anything that happens, I'm sorry to say, would have to be a version. You know, the B-side, it have to be a version. But I'm hoping and praying that it can be revitalized. Because right now, it is saddening to me that we have, and please correct me, I'm talking about reggae festivals. How many reggae festivals do we have in Jamaica right now? Reggae festivals, how many do we have? Which two are there? Reggae, I said reggae festivals. Rebel salute. Reggae. Would you agree? Huh? And say where we come from. Right. In a Jamaica. You know, the land of reggae. As I was saying. I love, no, don't get me wrong, you know. No disrespect, you know. Because another thing that Andrew pointed out is that what they did is also, after they took over Joe Bogdanovich and Johnson Records, they said, listen to me, this whole foreign artist thing not work right now, you know. respect doing now. We did love the foreign artists then to be and say, yo, we did enjoy that show then. But let us utilize our locals because they have enough talent and we can utilize them on our festival. But that authentic reggae some splash vibes, them reggae bed there. You understand me? That red, green and gold something there. It respect due to reggae some fest, but that something there about reggae some splash, wow. We have to do something about this. France is still claiming that they're the reggae capital of the world. They are. They have 300 reggae festivals. Get off. They have 300 reggae festivals in France. 300 a year. Brazil is also claiming that, and they have hundreds of ska bands. How many ska bands do we have here in Jamaica? That much? All right, yeah, man, yeah. What does that say? Eh? You hear that? Say that again, man.
Germany has more sound systems than Jamaica. There's never been a Jamaican who has won Best Reggae Artist in Japan.
Don't compare.
Never.
And people that support them too.
And then guess what now? Japan, you remember, we used to have some major Japan splash, with authentic reggae artists. Yeah? And all of a sudden, that doesn't exist anymore because, for want of a better word, certain artists were cloned. Including the thing their pan, the jerk chicken pan. But I'm saying this to say that we have a lot of work to do. It was said that, a lot of as a media person, I have to make a comment on this. We're not still hearing as much reggae as I'd like to, I agree, but with Roots FM, we are playing roots rock reggae music. With my program, Rootsology, I play at least 98% roots rock reggae. And it's a community radio station, but thank God for social media, so we're able to use that vehicle to transmit as well. So I have a major responsibility. I've been on radio for 20 years, but me not start doing not yet. Let me hear Ronnie Bird's story. Me not start doing not yet, Mr. Marga. Me not start doing not yet. This way you did where you see in a trench town and how you left uptown, right? And people are saying, in a sense, where you come a trench town far, right? And you're there and you're supporting music and you're supporting the people. So I say this to say that family, we have a lot of work to do. We can do it. We have to recognize the power, and I mean major power behind reggae music. And I'm imploring other media, DJ Marshmallow, you're doing a wonderful job. Please keep up the great work. As a media practitioner, as a female media practitioner, I salute you. And if there's anybody else in here that is on the radio and I'm not seeing, I salute you all. It's a very difficult job. Who's here? Derek.
Me.
Excuse me? Go again.
The Watchman.
The Watchman. All right. Salute. Salute. And thank all the artists who are here as well that continue to make conscious music. I love dance hall as well, but I understand the power of conscious reggae music. I thank you. I thank you all for coming. And I salute you all. You're awesome.
Thank you guys. This is a great presentation. I just love this mic here now, because I got the reverb. So going sound system style right about now. And it gives me great pleasure now to introduce a colleague of mine who hails from Jamaica but lived in Canada for a while. So she has an interesting perspective. So she has what we call a diasporic perspective on the music. And she is now residing at the Institute of Caribbean Studies. I'm talking about none other than Dr. Lisa Tomlinson. Dr. Lisa Tomlinson. You want to sit there or you want to come up? Yes. All right. Come on. Yeah? All right. You don't want to try this one. You want to try like this one. This one kick.
Good evening, everyone. I just want to thank, I just want to thank Michael for having me on the panel. And I'm not going to much talk about diaspora. I'm going to talk about, because when I spoke to Michael, I asked him the title of the presentation, and he said the title was to assess the state of reggae in Jamaica. So I'm not going to really bring in too much of the diaspora component, or maybe not even any. But when he told me, he said, the title is Assess the State of Reggae Music in Jamaica, it just sounded like this state of emergency, that I was coming to this, state of emergency conference where reggae is in trouble and we have to come and somehow rescue and revive reggae. And so I thought about it, and I'm here to dispel that narrative, because I know there's this anxiety that we have as Jamaicans in Jamaica, particularly. I'm going to look at the state as Michael, asked me to, and there was this anxiety, this narrative in certain corners. And this is not to throw stones. If it hits your head, then I can't help you. But this is not about throwing stones. But there's a certain narrative in a particular corner that somehow reggae is dead. Reggae is not alive. It's not vibrant. And we conflate it with the economic profits of what reggae is earning in the country or outside the country. And while I appreciate that argument, and it is valid, we do need to. And I'll speak about that later at the end of my presentation. So that is a valid point to look at. But we tend to really get absorbed in this idea of how much is reggae making, or how much money is reggae making, and we tend to somehow we're divorcing and we're not looking into the cultural aspect of reggae music. When I say the cultural aspect, I mean in terms of how culture evolves and how culture changes and so forth. So I want to talk about, in terms of youth culture. So, I see a lot of young people here, right? Quite a few. For those of you who are passing for young, like myself. So, my point is, youth culture, we have to remember, it dictates what is heard on the radio. It dictates what is in style and what is popular. And right now, and for the past 2 decades, we have worked perhaps a little bit more, maybe a decade and a half. Youth culture have been dictating that, what is in style, what is popular is dancehall music, right? And that's another anxiety, right? Somehow this music is replacing the roots rock reggae. So again, reggae is dead, we need to revive it, right? So my point is, just like in the 70s, young people, youth culture. When I say youth culture, I'm not even talking just about teenagers, right? Because the UN definition of youth is, it goes from, I believe, 15 to 34, right? They moved to 35, so that means right? So, okay, my point is, in the 70s, we saw that gravitation and attraction, again, because of the rebellious nature of music, the youth culture dictate that reggae was the music of the time, right? And reggae had its place, and it still does have its place, right? So that's one factor I wanted to look at, the fact that just because dancehall is now the youth culture, right, that is the music that is in, it doesn't mean that it's being replaced, right? It's replacing the existence of reggae. And also, we need to look at the fact that even within the youth culture, we still have DJs, dancehall artists, who navigate in transition between the two music. And they're able to marry dancehall and reggae. And in doing so, I'm finding that these dancehall artists, like for example, Damien Marley, he's able to maintain and sustain a particular demographic of young people. So we still have some young people that are enjoying, right? Enjoying reggae and also giving that longevity to reggae. Not just Baby Marley, we have Sizzla, who also does that type of navigation between the two. And more recently, we have Chronic, who is doing that as well. So that is one point, and another point that I wanted to raise in terms of the way we assess reggae dying, because we still have artists who are within the dancehall genre who are still using the music in a very roots rock, right? That consciousness that you spoke about. So the consciousness is not all gone. And then we also have artists who are not even identified as reggae, but we have artists like Bounty Killer, who's always, despite some of his, rude boy, bad man image, there are lyrics that he would use that would be considered, right? That would be considered to be also a part of, coming from that genre of reggae. So you still see that the influence of reggae exists, and it is still being, right? It's still being used by, Bounty Killer is not a youngster, but it's still being used by some dancehall artists and the ones who transition between the two. So again, reggae is not dead, right? We don't need to revive reggae, right? So that is one of my points. And we've always had a history in Jamaican music where reggae roots music has always been there to counteract the slackness that you were just talking about. I know in the 90s, my era, there was even though we had the Contra and the gun lyrics, we had the artist who was the roots reggae who were counteracting the so-called slackness. The 80s, you had the British general who was also counteracting, and then in the 2000s, we had the I-Way, the turbulence. So again, reggae is still very much alive. So again, I'm really trying to dispel this narrative that we need to revive reggae. And when I say revive, and this is not to dismiss that the reggae revival movement, I respect the movement that they're still trying to, a continuation of reggae, but I don't see it as a revival because reggae was never dead. I see it as reggae was never dead, it was not even on life support. I see it as, and this is not, I see the name revival more as a brand. The revival, and it's an overseas brand as well, in how reggae gets marketed and packaged. And this is not to dismiss the effort that these young people are putting into the music, because if we say that reggae revival, we're going to omit the generation before that, which was not, it was just 10 years ago. We're going to be overlooking Luciano, Buju Banton, Taurus Riley, all of these groups that came before. So again, to rest our anxiety, right, assured, reggae is not dead. It is still very much alive. Perhaps what we need to do is challenge, and I have a few challenges. Perhaps what we need to do in terms of the quality, because again, sometimes we get so caught up in the money making of reggae, we forget about the quality. Yeah. Of reggae music, exactly what is reggae music and how it needs to be sounded, and what needs to be, how we need to craft our lyrics. Well, one of the ways in which we need to raise the bar is through musical education, right? Our curriculum, the government has to make a conscious effort to put money into schools. So instead of just teaching, I did a research not too long ago, and I used to teach in the school system here, and instead of just teaching students to play recorder, there are other instruments, trombone, saxophone, just teach them and expose them to the different types of musical instruments. And also, in doing so, there's writing, songwriting, right? That is also part of the curriculum. This is Jamaica, we keep reiterating, this is Jamaica, this is the land of reggae. So that needs to be reflected in our musical curriculum, and not just in high school, or just wait till you get to university and learn about some of what people has just spoken about. Jamaican children should be exposed to this from an early age. It should be taught in primary school. So this is one of the challenges that we need to put towards, in terms of the government. So this is not about reggae's dead. Reggae is alive and well, right? This is why we can be here and have an International Reggae Day, right? And my next point that I wanted to make also, and this is a very tricky point, because I know the creative industry in Jamaica and the business side of it, we always talk about cooperation. So yes, cooperation is good, and we've seen, and you mentioned it in your presentation, Isis. So we've seen where, one of the ways in which reggae has been, maintained its vibrancy is through the festivals. So for example, I remember in the 90s when I would go to Heineken Star Time. That was in my music, because at this period in the 90s, dancehall was still very, this was the heyday for dancehall. But yet when you went to Heineken Star Time, you would never know that dancehall was the music of the generation, because the place was packed. And the music that was being listened to, played, and the artists that were there, Johnny Osmond, what's his name, Leroy Sipples, it was like, this is my mother's music. And this was in the 90s, but yet, people had a play, because there's always a niche market, right? So reggae, or Heineken Star Time, it touched that niche market. Greytown, these festivals were able to maintain those niche markets. So whether dancehall is a youth culture, that's what's being played, there was still space where dancehall and reggae were able to, exist or coexist simultaneously. However, we know that because of sponsorship that you spoke about, which was it last year, May 2018, where Heineken Star Time ended, I believe. That was about 31 years, and one of the reasons why they ended was because, again, they cited funding, and that was the case with Reggae Sunsplash, with Sting, jazz, and any music that was indigenous to Jamaica, right? And so if the fund, and we know that private organization and corporation can very well fund music, because we see that with soca, and this is not to disrespect soca, because soca is still a part of our Caribbean family, but we see that the interest is there, so that can also be, considering that reggae and dancehall, not just Jamaican music, but they're very popular. We need to also be able to fund money into these two genres. But then it gets kind of tricky. Like, I understand we need funding, but we also have to run the risk of corporatizing, right? There's going to be gatekeepers. So we have to also think of ways in which we could have private, investment in these festivals and so forth. But if we really want reggae music and we really want it to reflect the realities of the people and the voices in history, to what extent do we want it to be a gate kept, if I could use the word gate kept, right? So to what extent do we want it to be corporatized to the point where it becomes diluted, so it's become so commercial, right? Because we do need the funding, but at the same token, to what extent? We wouldn't have had let's say, Bob Marley if we had corporatized it, right? We were not, Bob Marley was making most of his money through tours and concert merchandising, and there wasn't that heavy hand in terms of corporatized, right? Corporatization. So those are things that we perhaps have to look at in terms of how we start to rethink, right? And reconsider, to what extent do we want to allow corporations to really take over, so to speak. And just very quickly before I end, there's that anxiety, if I could just go outside of Jamaica, right? So I've spoken about the anxiety here, that reggae is alive and well. There's really no need, the discussion needs to move away from keeping reggae alive on radio, but just, we really need to have people accountable, right? In terms of the government, I spoke about the school system, and in terms of corporation. But also, just to go outside very quickly, just to speak to ISIS, there's also that anxiety that, somehow people abroad are taking away reggae. That is also a narrative that needs to be dispelled, because history speaks for itself. When we say Jamaica abroad, there's still, and this is not just a diasporic lens. I'm not looking at it in terms of just the African diaspora or the Caribbean diaspora, but there's still that reggae still holds that dominant. No, Jamaica still holds that dominant place for reggae. This is where I'm in the ICS, and every month there's people who come from abroad, and they come here because they're trying to find, learn about the music. When they have mainstream magazines that are writing about the music, while they might cover a gentleman, who knows gentleman when you say reggae? The reggae artists from Jamaica, breaded ones here, they're the ones who are still getting the dominant, right, the dominant coverage in these mainstream, right, these mainstream magazines or newspapers, whichever. So again, that anxiety about, you know, France, the capital of reggae. France can never be the capital of reggae, right? Yeah, they could have all the fundings and all the festivals, but at the end of the day, as I said, just like with jazz, when we look at African American jazz, as much as African American jazz, in fact, African American music has been way more appropriated to Jamaican music. And in terms of, and I'm not talking about borrowing music, I'm talking about in terms of who gets the profit and so forth. They've been way more exploited. But yet African American, when you say jazz, you're not going to think of, or swing, or rock, you're not going to think of these earlier white men, right, older white men who were using, you know, borrowing from that form. You're going to be thinking of Miles Davis, you're going to be thinking of, and that's the same thing with wrap up, Michael Ocean, oh my God, right? So that's the same thing with reggae. So we need to somehow kind of, you know, dispel these narratives, these anxieties, and instead of, you know, having these reggae's going here, reggae's going there, we need to just focus more on how we could make the music better in terms of quality songwriting, you know, access to, you know, proper musical education and funding. So since Michael is kicking me off, I'll just end right there. I know he's not kicking me off. I know it's all good, Michael. All right. So that is basically what I wanted to talk about.
Thanks, Lisa. And we're kind of starting to run out of time, so I'm going to try and speed up the program a little bit. I just want Andrea has a quick tribute she wants to make, and then we're going to go into the musical segment, and then question and answer. But we do have to be out of here, unfortunately. Sorry.
Okay, first I'd like to concur with all the comments made by the previous panelists. I think all valid perspectives, and Reggae Day continues to do its part to try and encourage all of those measures mentioned. This year we are looking at a specific chapter in the history of Jamaican music, and that is the era of Reggae Sunsplash. As we noted before in Isis' presentation, Sunsplash is the definitive reggae festival. It is the one on which the many thousands of reggae festivals that exist today around the world are taking a page out of this book. This is a festival that was started in 1978 by a very brave and industrious team of friends called Synergy, led by Tony Johnson, Don Green, Ronnie Burke, John Wakeling, and Maxine Walters. These 5 Jamaicans stood bravely on the front line on behalf of reggae music with the confidence in our culture, despite the, I want to say challenges, but that's not even strong enough, because you know the story of Reggae Sunsplash, it makes me, as someone who has been battling with Reggae Day for over 25 years in Jamaica, feel like I haven't really had a struggle compared to Reggae Sunsplash. But it is telling to know that 41 years after the first Sunsplash, that we are still here talking about the lack of support for reggae in Jamaica. And that perhaps is the first place we need to be talking about the next 50 years from. This cannot continue if we're going to step further into this space. But before I hone in on our special guest this evening, I want to acknowledge the women of Reggae Sunsplash. It is the women of Reggae Sunsplash, as Ronnie very honestly stated, who kept the ship floating even when it wasn't seaworthy. I spoke of Maxine Walters. I want to acknowledge Suzanne Burke, who is here with us. If you could stand, please, and accept the appreciation of all of us here for your tireless support of Ronnie and the team and all the work you personally did to make sure that reggae had a place and a space in the Jamaican entertainment calendar and in the world's respect. Cindy Breakspear, Velma Green, Vita Wakeling, Barbara Gluden, Valerie Crawford, Deneen Campbell, Sharon Burke, Laura McLaren, and a very special lady by the name of Beryl Francis. He's the person who came up with the name Reggae Sunsplash, and who I think was part of the catalyst, the challenge, raised the challenge for Synergy to deliver this unprecedented presentation of reggae music in Jamaica that was not only important for the music, but important for the tourism industry in Jamaica, because prior to Reggae Sunsplash, there was no summer tourism in Jamaica. Montego Bay was closed. And it is reggae music that brought Montego Bay and Jamaica into the summer tourism season. Between 1978 and 1996, Synergy produced 19 festivals, 12 video documentary concert films, 14 albums. They created tours that took the music from North America to South America, from Europe to Asia and into Africa, literally to the four corners. They are very much responsible for the internationalization of Jamaican music, especially in its live form, and the exposure of many of the music's greatest artists. And for those of you who were not old enough to experience Reggae Sunsplash, my apologies to you. But for those of us who were, it was not only a pleasure, it was an honor, it was a destination, it was a pilgrimage. And for those of us who were in the business, it was a pinnacle, it was the heights of your opportunity to be able to play at Reggae Sunsplash. And so for these visionary Jamaicans, I would like us all to stand and salute the founding members of Synergy Productions for their tireless, and I wanted to come up because we have a small token we'd like to present to you, sir.
Deeply honored to receive this. Every time I speak about Sunsplash, I speak on behalf of many people. My partners, some of whom are no longer with us, but beyond Sunsplash, beyond the synergy, there was a family of supporters and friends who made this possible. And we are always and will forever be grateful to them and to you all. And we hope and we pray and we will fight on to make reggae music our music. Thank you very much.
For those of you who missed the Palav special yesterday, you may visit ireggaeday.com to hear it. There's a special Reggae Sunsplash tribute page where you're going to find a lot of great information, and coming in the next few weeks, a lot of great interviews. And we're going to have a part 2 to the Palav special this Sunday at 2 p.m. So please tune in to hear more about the Reggae Sunsplash story. Before I recuse the mic, I'd like to just take a moment to thank the team. We have a very small but very hard-working team at Jamaica Arts Holdings who have produced International Reggae Day this year. And if I can just ask everybody to stand. Aikichao Ojoro, Andrew L. Shaw, Jacob Grant, Dwayne Walker, Patrice Pickney. I'd like you all to give us a round of applause to my team. Thank you very much for all your hard work. And I'll turn it back to Michael.
Thank you, Andrea. So right now we're just going to go into a short musical break, and then we'll resume with question and answer. And I would love for us to start with Rastakura, who's going to do one poem, one item. And while Rastakura is going up to, we're going to have to use one of the microphones, Rastakura. While he's coming up to the front, I want to big up Professor Caroline Cooper, who started the Institute, the Reggae Studies Unit, I should say, but out of the Institute of Caribbean Studies. So I don't you understand, Caroline, but most people know she gave the campus a base for reggae music and showed the importance that it has for Jamaica. So very good. And I'm going to say that for all the people who want to perform or who are expecting to, I'm going to ask your kind, your assistance in terms of making sure that your track is ready and so forth, and there's no kind of hesitation in going from one segment to another. Because we don't have a double turntable and we don't have a double CD player, so you have to bear that in mind, especially those people. And I thought Rastakura was going to sing a cappella. That's why I had him come on first. Britain is ready? All right, Britain. Coming and is he ready? All right, and he's going to be introduced by Dr. Henry Mark. Yes. All right, yes, come true. Yeah, we're ready. We're ready right now.
Yeah, first giving honor to God, King of Kings, Lord of Lords, conquering lion of the tribe of Judah. There you go. It's a pleasure to stand in this position. Just want to publicly thank Trenchtown for receiving me, for transforming me. I want to thank UNI who keep me connected to the motherland. Botswana, which I represent as Honorary Consul General. It's all good. I'm going to be brief. Introductions are to be brief, but I have to warn you, never reach very far in the dictionary. Only got to where brief is described as a male undergarment. But nevertheless, I won't try to discipline myself. Agency for Inner City Renewal is really shouldn't be a mystery. We're in Trenchtown doing a lot of transformation work, and we provide jobs. Last year, payroll $197 million across 5 districts of Trenchtown. Give job a hand clap for that. We have jamming tours, 9 Trenchtown women. We have jamming merchandising, jamming studio. So to introduce the young man who will entertain you, I wouldn't be doing justice unless I ask Don McDowell to stand. See, a lot of people are out in the limelight like me, but there are people working in the background who really make contribution. And Jamming Studio is the brainchild of Don McDowell, came to Trenchtown, he designed it, he had a vision. And years after, it's still continuing. As a good Christian boy, I'm just absolutely mystified, just amazed by what I experience every day in Trenchtown. I have a radio program going on about now. It's called The Watchman. A watchman has biblical connotations, also was the name of Marcus Garvey. Newspaper. And, you know, my theme today is, did God make a mistake when he gave reggae to Jamaica? Just remove the mystery. I ended up by saying, God never make a mistake. Clap Jamaica. Clap Jamaica. Written is a reflection of what I see in Trenchtown every day. Now walk up and see this youth a come. And because I used to play football with a bigger Bob Marley. And I see written a walk. And the man just looked like Bob. He was a dancer. In my right time in the studio one day, somebody never show up and start singing. The rest is history in the making. This is not his natural setting. We have an amazing band in Trenchtown called Right Band. It's absolutely amazing. And, you know, we have another band called Roots Impact. So written usually would be backed by by Roots Impact with Nye being the drummers. Coming up very Africanist, I'm a Pan-Africanist, I'm a Ghanaian, so you can kind of tell it. Final thing I'm going to say about him. Just start listening to his lyrics one day. There's a strange fruit hanging from the cotton tree. And that's why you in a Trenchtown know about strange fruit from cotton tree. Black Panther. And just like in the days of old, the mixture of spirituality, African culture, and all of that together in a cauldron, a melting pot. There it is. So I want for you just to welcome Written at this time. Right, Jason Wright is his name, and he's going to do an item or two for you. Take a shot.
Yo, Written. Use that mic. Use that mic. Yeah. Black Panther.
Check.
No. It's alright. You use that one.
Oh, Written, just before you start, Primetime Green, where are you? Primetime Green, he's now managing the studio, which Don McDowell founded. That gentleman there has traveled to the four corners of a very round globe. You don't fall off of the edge. I want to publicly thank you, man, for everything you're doing. Yeah, man, just to work with you on a daily basis.
Yes, Jah. I'm a very loud individual. I don't know why I'm giving a mic, you understand? But let's go to one, please. Oh, Jah. Take me home, Jah, Jah. I don't want to be in this land. Take me home, Jah, Jah. Take me to Mama Africa, oh yeah. Take me home, Jah, Jah. Take me from this land. Take me home, Jah, Jah. Take me to Mama Africa, oh yeah. I want to go. Even though it's a place I do not know, I can feel it calling me away. And anywhere there's a tree, there is a root. So why should the leaves be free? Why should the leaves be free? Take me home, Jah, Jah. I don't want to be on this side. Take me home, Jah. Take me to Mama Africa, oh yeah. Take me home, Jah, Jah. Take me from this land. Take me home, Jah, Jah. Well, my concept of home is nice. Could take me over, Jah, Jah. I am lost in this world. Could take me over, Jah, Jah. I am lived on that road. Could take me over, Jah, Jah. I don't want to be on this life. Take me over, Jah. Take me to Mama Africa. Take me home, Jah, Jah. Take me from this life. Take me home, Jah, Jah. I don't want to be on no junction line, Jah. Take me to Mama Africa, oh yeah. Take me over, Jah, Jah. Take me from this life, Jah. Jah, 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 Jah. Yes, Jah.
Yeah, clap him, that's right, the one that called Richard. Good time, sir. So now, we're keeping the songs going, keep the vibes going. I want to introduce the one and only, the big dog poet of the moment, the one Rastukura. Hopefully we have the track lined up. And we're going to keep it moving, rocking and grooving. Yes, Takura? Yeah, that's what. And then after Takura, we have the one and only History Man. All right, music time.
Eat up the idol food. And Mr. Idol, vital. Sip up the idol is good for you. Idol, vital. Sip up the idol, eat up the idol food. And Mr. Idol, vital. Sip up the idol is no deaders, no treaders, no letters, no feathers, no dairy, no milk or no cheese. Save for your money, no buy them honey. The honey belong to the bees. Idol, vital, sip up the idol, eat up the idol food. Idol, vital. I now go panic, my food is my tonic. They make I so fit and so strong. No pesticide chronic, let's eat organic. So all my days may be long. Life I promoted, then I devoted with food that is natural and clean. Idol, vital, sip up the idol, eat up the idol food. Idol, vital, sip up the idol is good for you. Idol, vital, sing it. Idol, vital, sip up the idol, eat up the idol food. Idol, vital. I now go panic, my food is my tonic. You make I so fit and so strong. No pesticide chronic, best eat organic. So all my days may be long. Idol. Take it over that. We're right now. Yeah, man, give thanks and good evening. Yeah. Well, yeah, husband. Alright, see you. The announcement is, see, we're using the opportunity to invite you people to support Rastakura Road to Panafest. See, so the 13th of this month at Skyline Levels, we're having a fundraiser. See, because we're traveling to Panafest to bring the Ital Fighter in Africa. See, so we're inviting everyone. See, Rasta.
Yes. Yes, so right about now, it's time for the one history band, the next artist in the lineup, in the musical segment. So hopefully we can just run the track. Now you ready? Number 4. He's right behind you. Yeah, man. Come through. You can ride really well.
Yeah, greetings, give thanks. They are the ones who make it possible, Well, this track actually, the Honorable Babs Grange had asked Tony River to do a song to commemorate Reggae Month. Tony River had asked me to do it, being I have been informative on such things. Listen to reggae music. Right here. Reggae music, reggae a Rasta music. Love enough, love it and don't abuse it. Reggae music, reggae is Jamaican's music. I love enough, love it and don't abuse it. Reggae music, love it and don't refuse it. Because the people that know them to publish it, they come to consolidate and disseminate the global impact of what music create. Revival men touch us and I have been in. Scam blue and then we have rock steady. Reggae music started at the late 60s. Dancehall music started at the late 70s. Slim and Sam, poor William singer. Them a sing long before studio come round here. The first record was making a Jamaica. 1953, Singer Robinson Lewis. What was the name of the song till the end of time? Record a standing motor, keep that in your mind. The first reggae song was making a Jamaica. He's writing down on piece of paper. This a serious matter, nobody take it video. Larry Marshall sing this song on the boat. Reggae music, reggae a Rasta music. Love enough, love it and don't abuse it. Reggae music, reggae is Jamaican's music. I love enough, love it and don't abuse it. Reggae music, love it and don't refuse it. Because the people there can't do it. Can't go into the talent show that Jamaica. What was the name of the show? Opportunity Power. The first record in studio in Jamaica. 1951, that was Stanley Motor. Downtown Kingston and overseas area. West Indies was second owned by Seaga. Federal was third, justice of the culture. West Indies changed to dynamics some year later. Ketui established the first record label. 1954, a big yard and brand. The name of the label, Federal Record. History man, the pandemic, and the lyrics them hard. The first 9 million, the name Reggae Nation. I took still a sing out to the reggae song. The bell told them sing an next great reggae song. No more artists is the name of the song. Reggae music, reggae a Rasta music. I love it and don't abuse it. Reggae music, reggae is Jamaican's music. I love it and don't abuse it. Reggae music, love it and don't refuse it. Because the people there big youth are reverse, entertainer. We get a worldwide tour from out of Jamaica. 1972, it's a very near and far. I am a real first king superstar. 66 Alton, this and one in rock steady. The name was invented by Alton and Scully. Raymond Harper, Jamaica greatest trumpeter. Ernie Ramlin, Jamaica greatest guitar player. The first king song from out of Jamaica. Get it up, paper and up it and on the right down that. This man sing this and name my boy Lollipop. The first number one we put Jamaica on the map. The first dub single, listen to history man. Don't like King Punch na 1971. Jamaica first DJ, Pump and Tuki. Kerry Johnson and Connie Kitchen and Reggae Yola. Reggae music, reggae a Rasta music. Love it and doctor music, reggae music. Reggae is Jamaican's music. I love it and doctor music, reggae music. Love it and done with you. Big up the people. Bapali Peter Tash, Aboni Wheeler, Trudy Mowa, Rita Mali, and Marcia. Them take the reggae music all over. This is not about to the poor corner. So don't ask me where reggae music come from. Indigenous music from Jamaica and excellent hip-hop and reggaeton. This is the informative history. Reggae in Jamaica, in America, he big up in England, in Canada, he big up in Europe and in Asia. Reggae big down in Africa. This is history man from out of Jamaica. Jamaica, rougher than reggae. Come in, Mike Barnett. Yeah, man, the teacher and the important one. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, it's too bad, come on. Full of lyrics and full of culture. Right about now, it's all about the one sister called Oish. She have a tune, one of the old Peter Tosh classic tune there. So we're gonna have Oish come perform, and then we have a special treat, old-time vintage tune, and we're gonna wrap up pretty much after that. Yes, Sister Oish.
Give thanks. Alright, since you want the ganja tune, I'll sing that one. I was going to sing right now. Yeah. I shall sing. One. Legalize marijuana is more. Legalize Rasta not take more. Legalize this your one you know sure. Legalize right now me want more. Me have me light up, me want me wristler. Yeah, me keep myself, me go check sizzler. Make a next shadow na fire mama. Jamaica land of the best. I when me want a good judge, I know if it's in me. Don't give a feel on the road, you can't bring me. Cause you not get a job out of me sense. And the final one, it's not the same thing. Legalize it, marijuana is more. Legalize it, Rasta not take over. Legalize it, this your one you know sure. Legalize it, right now we want more. Get it in your meditation when you take a one. Get it in a minute so when you're feeling sick. Ball by when you observe trying and sick. They want to feel happy, say it time. What's brother Jamaica, get it too. In 1990, smoke I have you give up on 75 feet of farmers. Remove the bananas out. Legalize it, marijuana is more. Legalize it, Rasta not take over. Legalize it, it's the one you know sure. Legalize it, right now we want more. Now the Bible, Genesis 1 verse 29. So what we make a connection with the holy and divine. Send it up in a brain, you may now be a style. If you can't mercy, just look up. Happy to that scary, no more reason. And then we got the best of last evening. Stop the procedure, and I say Richard Hill. What's that represented by Papa? Legalize it. Well, the facts and grace. Holy man like you. What's somewhere working your blessing? And ISIS. Big up yourself.
Alright, Tom, big up yourself for each. Yeah, man, that's what we call a real performer right this up. And we're going to keep the vibes going right about now. Hopefully we can find that rhythm, that version, because we're going back into time to one of the first time reggae rhythms, and we call it the Nanny Gold rhythm. And I'm going to bring on one of the artists then who used to ride this rhythm before you, Roy, and before certain other man there. You don't know, maybe a man called Kiri Johnson. Kiri Johnson from back in the 60s, right about now. And your time now, you know. Come, let's get up for Kiri Johnson. Reggae music.
Microphone? Microphone is working? Yeah. Microphone?
Yeah.
I'm going to read that? Oh, I'll do that. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Kerry Johnson. I am the first man to talk on the first big hit reggae song written as a DJ in 1967. Yeah, in 1967, I talked on this rhythm, and it was the very good rhythm. I don't know if any of you remember the song. Swinging and you go, running, baby. Oh, I'm going to tell you something about the music of culture. It was called voice culture. It was called music that's culture. That's the first hit DJ reggae rhythm. I'm going to tell you about it. Jackie the Dude and the reggae album. Kerry Johnson and the lyrics. Robert Fans on the saxophone. I can tell you about it, it was really good. But I did for mommy, I did for daddy, I did for everybody. People used to say, what's the money go, dagger run and bury. Oh, I never let you do. No matter what you say, no matter what you do. It was called music as culture. I am the first man to talk on this rhythm. The first man to talk on this rhythm in 1967, when there was only two radio stations in Jamaica, RJR, JBC, and I made a hit at both stations. And this one was called Music as Culture, and it's a Nanigold rhythm. It was done by Studio One. So all the year I'm talking, I'm the first man to make 3 successive hits. This one was called Music as Culture. I did this one in 67, and I did one in 1969. That was called Voice Culture. You know what that is? If you're coming from town, you first into this sound. When you get up or when you get down, when you stop at this station for your reputation, I'm going to turn you over to your some of the action and music producer. I can tell that it was good. I did my third hit in 1972, and it was called Correction Train. In 1972, I did my third hit and it was called Correction Train. Correction train is coming down. Correction train is coming down. And I said, Lula, here comes up, I'm like, with us, Florida.
Clapping, yeah, man. Give thanks, you know. So, back in the past, some nostalgia there. Right now, it's all about, we're wrapping up, and I want to give thanks for all the panelists who helped me. I want to give thanks to DJ Marshmallow for keeping the vibes going in between the presentations. So, Eva Cooper, Dennis Isis Miller, and Aisha, you want to say something? And I want people to buy up the bar, you know. We don't have no drinks, but we have yatties. Courtesy of Benji's yatties. And it tastes nice, you know?
Yes.
Yeah, man. Real vegetarian thing and thing. Lentil and ackee, fatty.
Yeah.
Greetings. In the spirit of Reggae Day, you know, it's Reggae Days every year, but you know, this one is special. China is having his usual first Wednesday. Drumming and thing downtown, right there at Tower Street and Harvard Street, right there. You can pass on the road and just see that big old land. And he's always there with his tents and the drummers, all different type of drummers, and sweet from 12 noon till 6 p.m. That's tomorrow in the spirit of reggae drumming. Tomorrow Wednesday. It's tomorrow Wednesday, yes. Tomorrow Wednesday? No. Wednesday.
All right, give thanks, Aisha. And once again, thanks for being a great audience. Thank you, Andrea, for coming up with International Reggae Day. You've been a lovely audience. Unfortunately, we have a curfew, so I promised a question and answer, but I'm afraid, you know, next time still.
Okay.
You know, so just, yeah, all right. Next year, give thanks.